Hello everyone, my name is Corazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world on this very special day, in this not very green lupine ridge, but we're getting there. It's still more of a yellowy spring green, but that's okay. At least the snow's gone, and hopefully it stays gone this time. Anyway, today is a special day because today we are going to walk through the process of upgrading your version, and my version, of Vintage Story from 1.16.5 to 1.17.2. This upgrade process is going to be pretty much the same no matter what version you're updating from. You always want to kind of follow the same process so that you can avoid any world-breaking issues like corruption in your game file, or issues with your mods not working properly, and the really annoying issues where you have like every block is just sort of a white square with a red question mark. So that is today's goal. We're going to upgrade to 1.17, and then we're going to do some exploration of what 1.17 has. But first, we need to start thinking about our journey south, and to that effect, we need to make sure we have enough food to bring with us. Down here in our cellar, we have some food, and we have it mostly up here. This is all of our prepared food. We are not bringing any of this with us, so any food up here that we don't eat between now and the time we leave is going to just rot here, and that's fine. In this vessel, we have some soybeans, and these are an interesting option for food to take because look at how long they last. 11.5 years. I think they were 12 or 13 when we started, and even in our inventory, they last for 3 years. These are great for long travel. However, you'll notice, so I'll open it again, that these only stack to 32 in a single inventory slot. And that's not great, considering that we can double that with red meat, for example. So today we're going to get into an aspect of preservation that we haven't touched on yet, at least not as far as meat is concerned. We have used brine to preserve these pickled onions, and we pickled them with something like 5 or 10 salt and then a whole bunch of water. But today we want to salt meat, and that's going to take a lot more salt than the brine did, but that's fine because we have a lot of salt. We have plenty of salt, and I think we have some more sitting in a chest somewhere. Yep, here we go, soft minerals. So we are ready for that. However, you'll notice that in the proteins bin we have no protein, and yes, I know it's a vegetable. There. Vegetable and grain out of the proteins bin. Perfect. So to rectify that, we're going to go out on a bit of a hunting trip, because while our ewes and sows have given birth, their offspring are too young for us to determine their sex, so we can't just slaughter the adults wholesale because we might end up with either, no rams, or not enough ewes, or on this side, again, the wrong number of males and females. Also, these haven't given birth yet, so moot point there. So let's go out, and we're just going to go and find some poor animals to turn into stew. Sorry. 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 Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, now that that's all done, that dirty business is finished, let's go and we're going to grab some salt. Now, in order to salt meat, you need 2 salt per piece of meat, which means that since you can only fit 64 of any item into a barrel at most, excluding water, of course, we're going to need 2 barrels to do this full stack of meat. To start the process, just put your salt in the barrel, done, and we're going to put in as much meat as we can, which is going to be 32. And then we have to wait 20 days until it's done curing. So that's okay, because we have probably 20 days worth of odds and ends to do, and a few things we can also work on to pass the time. Next, we're going to need some vegetables to go with that, because we don't want to make just red meat stew. We'll run out of meat pretty quickly if we do that. So I'm thinking we're going to do our usual cabbage, and then A bit of a tricky one. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to include fruit in our diet for the moment because we might be leaving before our earliest fruit trees actually provide any produce, although I could check the greenhouse. However, we will be bringing probably some grain with us so that we can at least keep our diet varied, and because grain lasts a very long time without curing. So, that's the plan. Let's get to it. Okay, with those chores done, let's start getting to the upgrade process. Now, the first thing I want to do is that before we upgrade, I want to do a couple things. One, if you press Control and F3, you can bring up a sort of screen here that shows you a lot of information about your game and your system that's running on. Now, right now we're running at an average frames per second of 65 because I have a limiter on that helps with recording. You'll see down in here, this is sort of a graph of your actual frames as they're being processed. So you'll see this line in here is 60. If we had a nice, tight, smooth line across there, we would get a very nice video, but we don't, so it's a bit choppy. And I could turn VSync on, but my monitor is actually not a 60 Hz monitor, so turning VSync on, which would sort of lock the game's frame rate to our screen's frame rate, it actually causes more issues than it solves. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our settings, and I'm going to turn off the frame limiter. And in fact, I'll turn on VSync, and you'll see just how smooth that line suddenly becomes, and we're locked at, what, about a stable 100 frames a second. I'm going to turn that off for now, so we can look at the raw performance of the game in 1.16. Because one of the hallmarks of 1.17, and I'm going to press F6 to hide that map so we can see the frames a little better. One of the big updates is that they have purported to have improved the performance significantly. So let's take a walk around our house and see just how the game performs as we're moving around. It looks like we're getting 116, 15, 17. Now, in the last episode I mentioned how crossing chunk borders can cause frame rate drops. Watch that little graph in the lower right hand corner of the screen as I cross into a new chunk right about now. See that lump? And we're going to go into a new one in right about now. And you see how the video maybe got choppy? It might not be as choppy as it looks to me, because again, the recording is not at 130 frames a second, but it might be choppy in the recording, so it could be interesting to note in future recordings when I walk this way, whether or not we experience the issue again. Yep, there was a bad one. In general, we're getting between 110 to... ooh, the low dip there. Over here, we're getting closer to, what, 130, 140? For the most part, which is pretty good. Now, I do know that one of the reasons we're getting a choppy frame rate over there, or at least a low frame rate, is that apparently we use too many signs in our storage room, and signs are considered entities, not so much... the heck? They're not considered blocks like other things are. They're entities. Things like sheep and the player and the bees and any items that you throw on the ground. Those are entities. They're not locked to the grid. Even though signs kind of are? Question mark? So if we had fewer signs, we probably wouldn't see as much of a frame rate dip over here. Okay, with the metrics done, what's next? Well, next we want to open our console here, and we're going to type /auto save now, and this might not like the caps. There we go. And then we're going to do a gen backup, and that is going to create a copy of our save file that we just made. We forced the game to save everything to disk, and now we have a backup of that complete save. With that done, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to actually close our game. Well, we're first going to close this world, and the developers have made upgrading pretty easy. When you're on this page, Correction, when you load up the game, up in the upper left-hand corner, if there are any updates available to Vintage Story, you'll see this little banner at the top left of the screen. And if you click on that, which I'm going to do, it will take you to their website where you can download the version of the game that just came out. And first, you will need to log in with your email address and password that you used to purchase the game. And once you log in, you will be seeing this downloads page. Now, if you're updating from a much older version, you want to use the full installer on the left-hand side, or if you use the update and you're having some issues, you'll want to use the full installer anyway. I am going to go for the full installer just in case, because I know it's been a while since I used a full installer. I've been updating versions through 1.16 using their updates, and just in case I'm missing any of the music files or anything else that I missed, I'm going to use the full installer. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to follow the installation wizard. Now, we are not going to launch Vintage Story yet because there are a couple things that we need to do. We want to go into our app data folder, and we can do that by clicking on the start menu and typing in %appdata%, and it will take you straight to your app data folder. Once you're there, we're going to go into Vintage Story data, and from there into backups, and we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom to the backup we just made. And I'm going to change the name on this one from the name of our world plus a date to include _ final 1.16.5, just so that I know that that is the breakpoint. When that is done, you are going to want to make sure that you have updated all of your mods if you're using mods. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the mods part, because I do my mods a bit differently than you're supposed to, which is you're supposed to chuck them into the Vintage Story Data mods folder. I put them in the Vintage Story mods folder because I've had a lot more luck with it working from there. So your mileage may vary. In order to update your mods, make sure you go to the mod repository, which is mods.vintagestory.at, and you can go to /list/mod and check all of the mods that you have installed. If you're uncertain about a mod's compatibility, you have a couple options. One is if you read the comments in a mod on the files page, you can get a feel for whether users have been complaining about the mod breaking in the current version of the game, or asking questions about it. Your other option is to try it and find out, and if the game crashes, you can find out which mods caused it by either using trial and error, or if you are comfortable with digging into the debug info, you can sort of read and figure out which mod it is if you know what to look for. But with that being said, let's go ahead and we're going to fire up Vintage Story again, and now we are in version 1.17.2, down here in the corner. So we're going to go ahead and check our mod manager. All of our mods are updated and in. There we go. I did have to remove the campaign cartographer because it has not yet been updated to 1.17, but that's okay. And I also had to remove the volumetric shading continued because it has also not been updated to 1.17. But we're going to go ahead and load up our world, and it should be pretty quick. Supposedly load times have been cut down by anywhere between a quarter to a half, depending on the world you're loading. Now the first time it may take longer because it's probably going to do some conversions of different things in the game file, so let's see. And there we now have our world loaded in. Now you're going to see this upgrade notice. You do have to do this, otherwise you can end up with very bad things happening to your world. Now we have already made a backup, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's go ahead and apply this remapping. This will update your game's database. It will then restart your world. We're going to apply. And looks like it is actually going to load us back into the world. And that was pretty quick. I'm not going to lie, that was definitely faster than the first time. So now let's take a look around. I mean, does anything look new? No, not really. I mean, it's our house. We don't have any new blocks that we didn't have before. It is pretty smooth, I will give it that. Let's take a look at the metrics that we got beforehand. Or let's look at the frame rate now. So we are getting actually a little bit lower frame rate, I think. We were sitting about 115 over here before, and now we're at 102, 101. But it does feel smooth. I'm not getting as many hitches as I was previously. Let's go back over here. Is this a new sound? I think we have a new gravel sound, guys. It sounds different to me. That's interesting. So over here, where we are away from all of our signs, yeah, we have an FPS of 160, just about 170. It kind of goes crazy, but yep, there we have it. And I didn't notice. Let's see if we notice that sort of hitch in the frame rate as we cross chunk borders here. Ooh, yep, those are still there. Those are definitely still there. So that's a bit of a shame. I was hoping that would be resolved, but that's going to be a tough one, probably. Yeah, so we will still have to deal with those, but since I do use the frame limiter, that tends to sort of smooth them out a little bit. Not a ton, but enough to make it palatable. So I'm going to go ahead and change my frame rate back to 60, so that if we are getting choppy video, it should be less choppy from here on out. And to do that, I'd like to set my frame rate to about 72, because any higher and it will start trying to generate more frames than it should, and any lower and it might cause the frame rate to dip below 60 more often and get sort of a little juddery. Now if you look at it, we're actually getting a lot tighter of a line to the 60 mark than we were before. Our average is still 64 and our minimum 62, and that's pretty close. So we're not going to be perfectly timed for videos, but this is looking pretty smooth to me. I like it. I like it a lot. So I would say this is a decent upgrade. We still have the issue with crossing chunk borders. Let's see how it looks on 60 FPS. So there, we got a few longer frame times. That's not too bad. I can live with that. That is actually a good deal less noticeable than it was before. And this gravel sound is very satisfying. I'm not gonna lie. So, I just spotted something that's new. Look at these bushes. Well, not this one, I guess. Come here, you. But why are you not bushy? That's weird. Maybe they need to grow for a bit before they get bushy. But look at that. We now have bushier bushes. And I can turn this off, too. We have bushier bushes. Look at that. Red currants and black currants. And why are you not bushy? And we've got cranberries. And I do know that we can grab the shears, I think. There we go. Is it shears? And if we go to the bushes, we can trim them. Boop! Boop! There's no sound, apparently, so I inserted my own. But look at that. Now they are the original size and shape. And it's my understanding that these will eventually grow back into their bushier forms. Maybe we can make them do that now. Yeah, there we go. I think I like them bushier than not. The square bushes just don't quite do it for me. Now, what else do I see? Oh, I see something new. Look at this in our bar right here, our falx. We no longer have a steel longsword or long blade, we have a steel falx. Look at this thing. Look at that blade. Oh, and my hair's sort of like in my eyes a bit. Let's take my armor off. Yeah, my hair's a little bit in my eyes now. That wasn't there before. And look at our armor, it's all beat up because it's taken a lot of hits. Look at that. We have these sort of tears and rips in our armor. That looks really good. I like it. Now one thing I do see that I'm afraid to try is this. Oh, it did not like that. So it looks like our Blackguard Square Shield did not make the cut. So that's going to be a bug I'll report later. But let's go see what else is new. These foxes are neat. Yep, that one's still there doing its thing. It's also a Blackguard Square Shield. Shame. What else do we see that's interesting and new? Anything changed? Oh, I know what changed. Books. I read about this one. Books can now be placed on shelves. Do we have an empty shelf we can chuck a book onto? Not in here. Can we put one? Ooh, how about up here? Hey, look at that. That's cool. I think we need to upgrade the book nook right away. Okay, let's see if we can fit these shelves in. They look good to go here. I think that's alright. Yeah, that's not too bad. I can deal with that. I like it. And let's just fill this with books galore. Or books for, I guess. I think I have some more somewhere. Ah, there we go. You know, in the chest that has a label on it that I could have read. Just move you guys from here to, say, there. And I'm putting them 2 books thick so we can see them on the end. And it looks like they always face a certain direction. Look how we have the spines here, the non-spines over here, the pages over here. That's funny. Oh, and you know what? Seeing this reminds me. On Ashanton's channel, I saw that she had some tree seeds in a display case. And I want to see if that is from 1.17 or maybe from a mod. Let's find out. Can we put tree seeds into display cases? The answer is yes, we can. Oh, that means we need to update the day room up top. That's cool. That is neat. I like how large they are. They're easy to see. That's really cool. Okay, now what else can we look at for 1.17? Oh, right, water and water lilies. Check it out. We have some new ones. They added some randomly generated lilies with flower models on them, which I think is really nice. Just a neat little touch. But let's go get a bucket and let's play around with the water physics, because water will now flow through incomplete blocks. So let's go mess around with that for a bit. Okay, I've got some water and I got some stuff to play with. So let's go like dig a trench here and mess around for a second. So I'll just dig these 2 out, or 3 I guess. And let's pour this water right in here. Now, I'm assuming that a full block will of course stop the water. Yep, right. But a half block, say like a slab, placed horizontally shouldn't. Yeah, look at that. Interesting. Let's take this farther. I think I saw some other people playing with this feature, and I think that the game knows what level the water's at. So if we were to, say, pick up this slab right here and put it somewhere where the water is lower than half a block, like let's say right here. So we would normally have 1 more block of water after this one. Wow, look at that. That's actually really cool. So each block will sort of dynamically block water from flowing based on the block's height against the water's height. That is a neat feature. I like it. Now, I know that that doors and stuff will also block water, so let's pop a door in here. Yep, that blocks water. Of course, you kind of see the water at the edge of the door. And if we open it, oh, it does. Okay, cool. So we can sort of make little... Well, that doesn't work like that, I guess. Whoopsie. So the door works until you open it the first time. Nifty. Now, what about trapdoors? I'm assuming that since the door didn't really stop water after we opened it, since trapdoors typically start flush with blocks, I think this might have problems too. There we go. Okay, so since the trapdoor is like open there with the slats, the water just goes on through, which I kind of expected, but how about that? Yeah, okay. Now the one that I was most concerned with, and the one that I know had some issues to begin with, is chiseled blocks. What happens if we chisel a block like this? Boop. Okay, so we have a chisel. Oh, we have to have a hammer. Right, okay. Let's get a hammer. I'm not really a fan of this change. I mean, it's realistic, but having to have a hammer in your offhand means you can't have a light in your offhand, so that's going to be a bit awkward, I think. Let's go ahead and chisel this block. There we go. So, okay, so it does stop water. What if I do that? If I do that. Okay, neat. So I had seen some issues early on having any chiseled voxels in a block caused the water to just seep right through. And I wonder now if that's not going through because our chiseled portion is above the rest of the water. Let's drop down a bit, and if we chisel, say, down here, what happens? Okay, so this still blocks water, and I'm guessing there's some sort of threshold for how much you can remove before it stops blocking water. Let's try like this. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so once you get to, is that about 1/8 of a block? Then water can start flowing through. Okay, interesting. Well, let's patch this in. I want to go and check on our wellspring down in the in-law suite. Chuck that block away. Because I want to see if that sort of little sink that we carved still works, or if we have to patch it up. Okay, so it looks like we're good here. That's a good sign. So maybe it has to do with not just how much voxels are moved, but also what surfaces are against which part of the block there. So if we do, say... Oh, right, hammer in the offhand. That will take some getting used to. Okay, well... So it's somewhat more forgiving than I thought. Let's drop you there. That's a weird, glitchy thing. There we go, now we're flooded. And apparently it floods our lamp, too. That's pretty funny. Let's just fill you back in. Cool, well that's good to know. So we can keep making sinks like this, or wells like this, in the future, and we won't need to worry about the water spilling out. And talking of water reminds me that we now have a breath meter. Let's see if we can get somewhere where we actually see this thing. Yeah, look at that. Okay. I did read that it was extended. It was originally 20 seconds of breath, and it is now 40 seconds of breath, which isn't too bad. I kind of feel like we can maybe still work with this for surveying and mining in the middle of lakes, because this is pretty generous. I mean, we can get, I don't know, a dozen blocks down, and then be able to breathe again by coming to the surface. So I think we can work with this. I do wonder how much damage you take when you run out of breath, though. Let's find out. And... wow, that's a really annoying voice. That was not the voice that I chose originally. Okay. I might have to tinker with that, but yes, that is... Wow, that is horrible. I don't like that at all. It's like my nose is a kazoo. Okay, I think the next thing I want to look at is animals, because I know there are a few things, and I know someone in the comments was excited about one specific feature, which is petting the animals. So let's see how we pet the animals. Can I... Do I right-click? What do I do here? Can I only pet sheep? Do I not crouch? How does one pet the animals? Oh, don't. No, please don't. I am not sure how animal petting works. I could have sworn it was like a right-click or a crouch right-click. Oh, no, you're gonna butt me again, aren't you? Get out of here. I'm pretty sure it isn't left-click. That smacks him. Makes him angry. Well, that's a shame. I'll have to look into that more and see what the requirements are for petting an animal. But I do know, speaking of animals, that there could be... I think there could be bears out here, couldn't there? Let's go see... Before the bears... Let's go get our armor on, first of all. Let's go see if we can find any fish in the lake down there. I think we might have to go to new lands to... Hey, a bug, look at that. To find fish. Because if they work like the other animals do, then when you kill, say, a wolf or a sheep or a pig, then it takes typically about a year before the game tries to respawn that particular animal in the same location where it spawned in the first place. So I'm thinking we might have to wait like up to a year before we get fish in lakes that we've already been to. But I think I know of a place we haven't really been to that's not too far away. Alright, so we are going to do a bit of a double jump because we have explored the other side of this translocator pretty extensively. However, on the one next, after this one, we haven't. So I think we can probably get away with exploring that way a bit. So I think this water has already been generated, so we're going to need to go a little farther. I think if we go to the southwest, though, once we go that way, we should be able to find some fish in the water once we're about this far into the lake. Now, I just noticed something. I'm going to take a poke at while we're in here. Is the way that the maps work is different, at least the map icons. So it used to be you had to type a name, choose whether it was pinned or not, and then you had to like type in a color, and if it was a color the game recognized, it would use it. If not, it would just say you can't use it. And now we have a color picker, which is nice. Although it would be nice to pick like other colors, like lime green isn't here, and same with like regular red. There's this color which is not quite red, it's a little pinkish. But the icon's the same way. It's no longer a drop-down, it's now a selector. Okay, well, we went accidentally well beyond our little go here point, so let's take a look around for some fish. I think we have salmon in the game. There's one! Hey, fishy buddy, I'm gonna sit here. My breath recover. Hey, look at you! Hello, salmon. Pink salmon, weight low. I wonder if we can... If we kill you, do we get anything? If you say red meat, I'm gonna cry. We actually have raw fish! I did not know this was in the game. I have been lied to. By myself, mostly, for not reading all the patch notes, I guess. Let's go get this other fish that I saw. I saw a second guy around here. Are you running away from me? How dare you? I am faster than a salmon. Look at that. Oop. There you are. Let's get some more fish meat. Let's take a look at this, because I have not seen this before. Alright, fish meat. Fresh for 1.5 days. It looks like we can actually eat it raw, which is interesting. So a little bit of sashimi there. And it is protein category. It's 220 satiation, which is, I guess, decent. It's not anywhere near like cooked red meat. And it cooks, I guess, the same as other meats do. So let's take this home. And I want to cook these on our fire. Ooh, you know what? I'm going to get some more fish and see if we can put them into meals. And then I'll take a look out for bears, too. Oh, bears! Bears, bears! I don't have a shield. I'm very tasty. I'm coming to Goldilocks your house. If you don't stop me, don't think I won't make good on my threat. There's no bears? I'm gonna make little gummy candies in your likeness and sell them without paying you royalties. How do you think of that? Hey, chicken of the woods. I'm not sure if bears are supposed to be rare or if we're just getting unlucky. We should be in bear territory. Bearatory. Anybody in here? Any bears in this cave? No. I am not finding any bears. I can barely believe it. How about over here? No. No, this is getting to be a bit unbearable. I'm not sure. And again, maybe the bears need, like, some time to spawn? Oh, you know what? The developers mentioned that bears don't spawn within the first 4 days of a world, and I wonder if that's sort of retroactive, so we might not see bears for 4 in-game days. So we should probably come back in a little while and check for bears, or, once we go down south, we can look for bears too. I'm going to grab this meteor iron, and we're going to head back home for now, and then we'll keep exploring the different new features in 1.17. Okay, we are home now, and in between these clips, it's been about a day, I went and asked about the Blackguard Square Shield, and apparently there are no plans to fix this. So we're going to have to just get rid of both of these shields because they are useless, and I'm going to go and chuck them into the pit, which is a shame, because we just made the one. Bye. But I'm going to put these things away, and then we'll go and take a look at the fish and see what we can do with this meat. Alright, here we go. We have a couple fires, one that needs some fuel. Let's get that going on. Hey, we can make some fish stew. Can we do this like regular... Okay, so I guess it acts sort of like a regular protein in that we can make a normal stew out of it. So let's go ahead and fire this up. Right, and I wanted to save one of these. We're going to just light you up like that. ASMR time. Okay, so what do we have here? We have... Interesting. So cooking the fish, although it lasts longer, actually reduces the amount of satiation you get from it. That's interesting. Disappointing, maybe? I don't know. It isn't like you can eat the raw chicken or raw red meat, so I'm not sure it matters that much. If we compare this to our normal meals, so we get normally 140 protein. This is 750, so it's kind of like chicken, I guess. I think chicken's about 750 in a meal, but that's good to know. We can use fish in meals, so when we're on the go and we need to throw steam in our face like we're doing right now, we can go for fish. I want to look at dyeing next because this is kind of the feature change that I am most excited for, is that dyes have become a lot more efficient. Now, what I need to do first is figure out where I put my mordants. Oh, here's one. But I know I also have some crushed tin and some crushed chromite somewhere. Give me a minute. I might need a minute or two to find this. Okay, so that took an embarrassingly long time to find. I'm not going to say just how long, but you could have eaten like 2 meals between me starting that search and ending it. And it was in a chest that I wouldn't have thought, oh, that's new. We now have kind of cut off sound effects. But we can actually right-click these to open and close them now, which is cool. And something else I noticed while I was doing some recording is that when we are in this mode, when I zoom in and out, it's no longer an instant. It actually kind of glides in and out, which is really nice. I know there's like a look at mode too. I'll have to look at the command for that because you have to enable that in your world. So anyway, back to business. So we have some dyes to play with here, and let's go ahead and pick this one. And how much of this goes in? 10. Wow, okay, so 10 crushed alum into 50 liters of water, which is nice. And how much chromite? Oh, yes, so they equalized all of those, looks like. That's great. Okay. Right, I have to... Instead of putting the mordants and the dyes in one barrel, you have to soak the fabric you want to make in the mordant first. Okay, so it is 2 mordant into 1 cloth. That's not too bad. So we can do 25 at a time. I'm happy with that. Okay, only 8 hours to wait. That's not too bad. I do think in order to make dye, though, we need to actually, like, let it sit in a barrel as well. So let's try, I don't know, some crushed cinnabar. Try some of that. I think grass for green dye. And how much of this goes into these guys? Let's do you. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I looked it up in the handbook, and it looks like it is a 1-to-1 ratio, but you do have to make it in multiples of 4 rather than 1, which is kind of goofy. But we will get 48 liters of green dye after 8 hours of sealing. Go ahead and do that. I think, oh, you know what we should do? We could plant some onions so that we can get some yellow and orange dye. And they grow pretty quickly, so let's go plant some of those. Let's just fill all of these open areas with some onions. And for the red dye, it looks like it's a bit more forgiving. We do need to dump you, and we will get 48 liters of water, and then looks like it's going to be, there we go, 12 cinnabar. And that will get us 48 liters of red dye. There we go. So while that's going on, I think it might be a good idea to make ourselves some more blue dye, because if you look at our armor looks pretty badly busted up. Now, I don't think it's low enough in durability to lose effectiveness. I think it would tell us here if it did. But I do know that you get less armor out of, or less protection out of damaged armor. So I think we should go ahead and fix this up. And I believe, okay, so we can fix it with blue cloth. I don't know how much durability a single piece will actually recover, so let's just go ahead and I'm going to grab a bunch of cloth, and we're going to basically just soak up all of this blue dye that's been sitting here for, oh, like 40 episodes. Oh, right, we need the mordant. Wait, no, this is woad dye. We shouldn't need to do that unless there's a new method for that. But it's not letting us. I wonder if this thinks that this is blue dye made from cornflower, which it isn't. Why don't we try making some more blue dye with the woad and seeing if that fixes it for us. Let's see, woad blue dye, we need 4 liters and 2 woad. We should need about 24 of these then. There we go. Okay. So that's good to know. I will bring y'all back in about 8 hours when all that dye is ready, and we can get to some dyeing and maybe some armor repair. What have we here? We have some RGB. Yes, let's see, we have 48 liters of woad blue dye and 24 liters of blue dye. So we probably should have used this before, but that's okay because mordants are... Oh right, it's just cloth now. I was like, whoa, these are empty. But now that mordants are more efficient, I don't think we need to worry as much about the blue dye, which maybe I shouldn't have made a whole bunch more blue dye. Oops. Let's go ahead and, while these other ones are still working, let's go ahead and try to repair our armor. Now I think, unlike regular clothes, you don't just left click on your armor. That's right. You have to actually put it in your inventory. And okay, so 3 pieces gets us back to 1 less than full health. That is honestly not bad. So 6 pieces to repair the gambeson from scratch. Actually, probably a little less because we're already below half. So that's pretty cool. How about you? 1 piece gets you to full. Great. And you. 2 pieces get you to full from half, so I'll take it. Not bad. And we're all patched up. Look at that. No more gaping holes in our armor. Well, everyone, I think that's about all we have time for in today's episode of the Vintage Story Guide. I hope you enjoyed our adventure into what things make 1.17, as well as some of the beginnings of our prep for heading down south. I'm going to be working on some other prep in the background, things like getting more steel ready to take with us, and getting dyes and making our new clothes, and we can talk about those right before we leave. If you have any AMA questions you want me to answer in a video, drop them in a comment with the hashtag 20questions. And if you play computer games and want to support the channel, consider using my Humble Partner link next time you're shopping on the Humble store, on screen now and in the description below. Anyway, as always, my name has been Corazar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.